Well, hello. Well, right off the bat, I can't even talk. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome back to our Life Fit podcast. We are starting today with our Illness to Wellness Continuum. I have once again started out this podcast speaking like a moron, so you guys are going to get really, really relaxed and set in with my stupidity. So today we have a little bit of shift in our main host. Jeff couldn't be here today, but we have Kyle, our personal trainer here. He is a fan favorite. If you guys go downstairs to our YMCA, we have Celebrity Fit Club, and Kyle is up there. I don't know, he has some stalkers. I don't really get it, but it is the way it is. Of course, Nathan, our massive power lifter, he is also part of the team today. He's been here before. He's going to be continual. And then we have our first guest speaker, yay, Rebekah. And so we're going to be basically talking with Rebekah, really finding out, sorry, I completely messed her name up. We're really going to be talking about the Illness to Wellness Continuum. And what that really is that we want to bring attention to people maybe where they're sitting in a situation and to be able to educate them out of that situation. So first of all, Rebekah, if you just sort of tell us a little about yourself, and then we could just sort of go along with our conversation. So yeah, please.
I've been an EMT since 2012, and I just went through the nursing program at Hannibal LaGrange and graduated. I'll be starting next week, actually, in the Hannibal Regional ICU, so I'll be an RN up there.
Awesome.
So, yeah, a little bit about me.
So you did, how many years as an EMT?
Well, it'll be 7 this year.
So you've probably seen pretty rough cases, haven't you?
Yeah.
Okay, so in this Illness to Wellness Continuum, I mean, we're going to be starting on the roughest part, which would be the pre-death, the last step of the illness side of the Illness Wellness Continuum. So basically, have you ever seen, of course you've probably seen the worst cases possible on the illness side. So like, what is like the bad cases that you've seen, like diabetes and things like that? What is like the worst kind of symptoms and cases that you've probably seen in the years that you've been doing it?
Well, I've seen a lot of people with diabetes that have actually lost like feet and toes, stuff like that. So that's kind of what we want to prevent if we can.
Okay, so what would you sort of suggest to people like that are family members that could be even themselves about what they could possibly do to take the next step to try to be more healthy, is what you would say?
So definitely the first step is to listen to your doctor, what they say. Take your medications like you're supposed to. Try to eat a healthy diet. That's a big part of it. The diet is a major part of the health, whether you have diabetes or not. So, and if you have an exercise program, it's best off to do that as much as you can. Of course, you need to consult with your doctor before starting one if you have something like that. But, you know, even small steps, like if you have trouble walking across the room of your house, just start out by doing that. That's the best way to start out. It doesn't have to be, you know, running a marathon the very first week that you start. You know, you just got to take the small steps to do what it takes.
So what would be, I know we talked about diabetes, but what would you think would be the worst case that you've probably seen with like the health issues, like possibly heart attacks or anything like that? What would be the worst case that you could have said, man, if I could have told them earlier to watch out for the symptoms, what do you think it would have been?
I mean,
health-wise, not anything like accidents, please.
Yeah, I mean, you just gotta, like I said, follow the diet and then take your medications and.
But what do you think would be the worst one you've seen, like maybe health-wise or?
I've seen heart attacks. I've seen
Okay.
strokes, and all that can kind of come from with diabetes. So.
Okay. Were they a lot of younger people? Were they older? What would you think?
I've seen some younger ones. I've seen people as early as in their 30s have heart attacks that have taken their lives.
Oh, wow.
So, it doesn't even have to be someone that's older that has struggles with that. So it's definitely important to start out at a young age with taking care of yourself and taking care of your body.
Yeah. So I guess our big thing that we want to make sure that we educate to people is that, you know, a lot of us have family members that are friends or people that we may have known that have a lot of health situations, and they're either too afraid to talk about it or they're too embarrassed. So, I mean, are you guys pretty familiar? Do you guys know anybody that have had heart attacks or had heart problems in your life?
Yeah, actually. My grandpa passed away with a heart attack,
And
so
so, I
massive
mean,
heart attack.
Definitely questions that we definitely need to talk about this. It's a family situation. So, I mean, what was the situation that happened there?
He was, I believe, 53, 54, and my grandma came home and he was in a garage and he had died. He had a massive heart attack, they said, so.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And there was no signs, no warnings. He ate good, he worked out. I mean, he was pretty healthy. The only thing he did was drink coffee every day. So, I mean, as far as, worst thing he had.
So it wasn't a thing of just malnutrition or
No,
something
no,
else or anything like
no.
that?
But he had a lot of stress because he worked for the railroad. So
Okay.
that was a lot of it. So.
No, say, well, how about you, Kyle? Have you had anything?
I've had great grandparents that have had a heart attack. But like my grandma, she actually has diabetes right now, and it's just a constant daily battle with her with insulin and with everything else. Constantly watching her sugar and making sure there's certain things she can't eat a lot of,
Yeah.
and so it just seems like a very strenuous process that may have been able to be prevented earlier on with proper nutrition and exercise, which
Yeah.
is I feel like a lot of cases.
So what do you think, like in the situation where he was saying before, it could have been prevented? What would you suggest to families where they have a situation? The people that will be watching on this video that maybe have a family member that could be going into possible loss of limbs, what would you be your suggestion on making that awareness to them and trying to get them possibly into like a healthy kind of routine? What would be like a suggestion for you?
Well, definitely don't be afraid to talk about it with your family members. I know for some people they might feel a little embarrassed that that's happening to them. So if they feel comfortable talking to their family about it, I think that's going to kind of help, because the family can help prepare meals and stuff that's going to help them. They also need to be sure that they track their blood glucose levels, so that way, they can see whether it's going too low or going too high, what the deal is with that. That can help prevent a lot of serious illnesses and hospitalizations, stuff like that. So
what do you think is the biggest cause that caused people to move into that realm? Do you think it's embarrassment? Do you think it's fear talking to the relative or fear of being exposed for problems? What do you think is the biggest problem? What do you think where people would be willing to go down to that road of I'm going to die if I don't do a change, but they don't make that effort to their family or their family doesn't make an effort to them? What do you think is the biggest stoppage point or what keeps them from wanting to move on to becoming healthier, but they go down that bad trail?
I know that money is a big deal for a lot of people with
Okay.
health problems. Medications can be hundreds of dollars a month, even thousands sometimes. Their supplies for their blood glucose levels. I mean, the glucometers are expensive too, the little test strips and the lancets. That would probably be the biggest thing. And then self-neglect is something that's very important as well. Sadly, a lot of people, I don't know if it's because they're just trying to play off their symptoms and think that they're not really as bad as they are, but I think that that's definitely a big part of it.
And so maybe getting to that point of pre-death, and I know this is sort of a harder subject to talk about because it is not much you can do on wellness side. It's more of a medical, and I think today is more of a, we want to sort of scare people and catch them into that, oh my gosh, that is me, what do I need to do? So if you have someone sitting at home and they're going, man, I am at the bottom of my barrel. I've already been told I'm going to have a heart attack. I'm morbidly obese. I'm really struggling with my life. I'm having multiple symptoms with my kidneys. I just don't think I can do it. What would you suggest to have them start doing? If you were there in their living room talking to them right now, what would you just possibly suggest to motivate them out of their situation to eventually possibly getting to like a walking or a gym environment? I know it's a tough question. Maybe you guys have an answer too for that, let me know. But I think as a group, we want to discuss that and sort of bring our whole minds to that. So
Well,
what do you
like I
think?
said earlier, take small steps. If you have trouble getting up out of your chair, just try standing up for a few minutes and, stand there for a few minutes, keep your balance. If you feel strong enough, take a few steps across the room and then go back to your chair. You don't have to, like I said, start out running a marathon. It's just the small steps that are going to lead you to being able to do more, and then eventually that's going to help you lose weight, which is going to help your high blood pressure, that's going to help your blood sugars. I mean, that's going to help your heart, your kidneys, everything. So just taking that first step is just, and it's hard for some people, but if you can just do that, then it's going to get you in the steps to the right direction.
A good confidence booster.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think too for you, Kyle, I mean, you've been personal training for some time.
Right.
Do you have any stories of someone coming in where they were more obese and struggling to where you could see big changes in their life?
Yeah.
Speaking of like maybe a situation where they were really bad off and then they were able to become more functional.
Yeah, I had
And we
somebody.
don't have to say names, of course.
Right. Yeah, and I had somebody that came into me, and I sat down and talked with, and he was on a list of medications, a long list, and he was way far down on the scale or meter, and couldn't do a whole lot, you know, and it was just taking those baby steps, recommending, hey, let's make slight adjustments in your diet, you know. Let's stop eating some of this junk food that you eat, some of these, you know, snacks, what it may be, and let's replace them with something healthy. And then just starting him off with walking short distances, you know, and being more consistent with it. And then over time, building from that. And he did end up getting off a decent amount of his medications.
That's awesome.
Because of those small adjustments, and just kept progressing from there.
So what do you think would be a suggestion for you to telling the same person on that, looking on the other end, you know, like you were talking about your grandma, those kind of things, what would you suggest to them? If they're like, man, these are my symptoms, I am bad off, I don't think I could do any of this, what would you suggest to them to grip them to say, I need to be active? What would you be saying if you were staring right at them?
It doesn't have to be anything drastic, you know, and I think that's what people think is when they think, oh, well, proper nutrition, I need to run, you don't need to run. You know, like kind of like she said, you know, small steps, baby steps, as much as going from one room to the next, you know, and being consistent. And then, you know, let's say for instance, example of food, hey, I eat, you know, I eat snack cakes twice a day, every day. You know, okay, well, let's take the snack cakes back. Let's replace it with fruit. Let's replace it with some sort of vegetable, something like that. And just continuing to increase that activity. It doesn't have to be a drastic change.
Yeah, exactly. And so what do you guys think? I mean, on the intervention side of friends and family, how honestly do you think that we can motivate those people that are a part of that intervention side? How do we motivate them? How do we speak to them and tell them that, you know, good ways of speaking to those people? Do you guys have any suggestions for that?
Yeah, well, he said, you know, replacing the snack cakes with fruit or something, that's a big thing. You know, if they find healthy foods that they like, go buy it for them, so they have it in the house. And sometimes it's hard for them to get out and go shopping, so if you can do that one little thing for them to help them take the step in the right direction, and it's pretty simple.
Yeah, so, and that's a big thing. I mean, and one thing that I was really excited to talk to Nathan, and of course we're not going to say this awesome person's name, but you have a close person to all of us that has had a fantastic life journey.
Yes.
And so if you could just sort of talk maybe to that person about, not the person we're talking about, but the person that is struggling about the depression and all that comes with it, that I'm going to fail in life, I'm going to die, that fear of those symptoms. Could you just sort of talk about like how his emotional state changed as he went from, you know, possibly don't have to go major details, but where he was struggling averagely to where now this great guy has an awesome personality.
He started out with, you know, just walking on a treadmill just a little bit, changing his diet, just eating chicken and fish and vegetables, cutting out all the bad foods at McDonald's and all that stuff slowly. So he walked on the treadmill, so then he's like, okay, I've walked a little bit, I'm gonna move it up to just maybe running a minute, walking 10 minutes. Eventually he had it to the point where he was running miles on the treadmill.
Okay.
And then, of course, now he works out at the Y, so
And he's
yeah,
a phenomenal
tremendous
person.
journey.
Yeah.
And
And so he was super shy probably
Yep,
at
no,
first.
no supplements, nothing. Did it all from the ground
And
up.
how did that help with his self-esteem?
Great. A lot more confidence now. He's a lot more, you know, energetic. I mean,
And
you know,
what was his big motivation to come to start that life change? And that's something that you can usually speak to the people that are watching right now. That have family and friends that are struggling.
he was sleeping. He was stopped breathing in his sleep. I think, what is that called?
Sleep apnea.
Yeah, sleep apnea. And I think that was a part of it. And I think he realized, you know, he could die from that. He needed to lose weight, and that was important to him. He wanted to live.
And so that was just a fear
Yep,
factor.
he just one day he just had enough, and he's like, I'm done. I want to, you know, I want to get better. I want to be better.
And now this guy, like you said, he's a rock star.
Yep.
It's pretty awesome.
He works out every day. I mean, he's a hard worker. Yep.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
So, so I guess our big thing is that we want to make sure, as a whole group, that we could be able to talk to people around us and making them aware about how really getting involved in that family member's life and not being afraid. So I know we want to change their food. We want to really look at changing their diets and really being involved. But how do we? I mean, we can only give so much for someone to change. So I guess my big question, I really guys want us all to really think about this right now, is how do we get as a family member? So for example, I had a few family members that had super bad issues with obesity. I mean, bad, and a lot of alcoholism, bad eating, and stuff like that in their life. And it took the family to say, your eating habits are horrible. And it was a rough time. And we probably would have done it wrong a little bit. We were more aggressive than we should have been. And put them off for a while. I mean, what do you guys say as suggestions that, from my perspective, you know, we're approaching a family member that is very ill, very sick. They can't barely get off the couch. You know what I mean? I'm like, well, some people are just like, well, just let them be happy and die. Well, no, they have time to survive. They have time to change. It's a horrible way to die. That's just an excuse in my point of look, you know, in my point of view. And so what would you guys suggest, even from my point of view, of, hey, you know, this is what I would do to possibly educate them, you know, and let them know, okay, this is what we need to do for you to get you out of it. What kind of tools that could we possibly give those people in their tool belts, instead of just changing their food, but trying to get that person to be willing to change instead of giving up? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I mean, what do you guys think?
I mean, I think allowing them to realize that there are a lot of people out there that do want to help them and will help them on that journey, that they don't have to do it by themselves. And whether that's a family member, a friend, you know, a trainer, it could be anybody. They don't have to go about doing it by themselves. You know, there are plenty of people that can care about them enough to say, hey, let's take that first step together.
Yeah.
So I think that plays a big part in it as well.
Do you think a big issue in that is trying to build the confidence for it first?
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Definitely.
Yeah.
No
Yeah.
negativity neither.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a lot of fear of approaching a loved one, saying you're gonna die if you don't change. And so I think how, for that person themselves, that family member, the one that is approaching, how do we give them that encouragement? What do you would suggest? I mean, you guys have had close people that have been sick. I mean, and you've dealt with people that if they don't change, their life is going to, and you can probably tell them until they're blue in the face
Yeah.
as being a nurse,
Yeah.
but they won't change unless a family member jumps in.
Right.
So, you know, as a legality, you can't go to that family member and say, go talk to them. But we have an opportunity now to say what you would suggest. I mean, so what would you think to telling that family member on approaching? What would you say would be the easiest tool for, I guess, motivation, maybe because I'm more fitness minded, but what would you suggest to that family member to do to motivate them or give them the courage to be able to approach that person and approach them correctly? What would be the way to go about it? Or to build up the courage to even do it?
Yeah.
Because we can always say, hey, we got great things, but to even approach that step, I think is a big issue. Like, I was so fearful to talk to some of my family members when they're ill. I talked 100 times over of going, it's not my job.
Yeah.
It's not my job, you know. You know, God's the ultimate judge, and I would not do it. And so if I had someone come along saying, hey, this is how you need to approach them, then I would have approached them a little bit easier. So what do you guys think? What would be a good way to get that person in my boat to be able to get enough courage to go, okay, I need to go talk to them, and this is how I'm going to do it?
Like he said, you know, make sure that they know that they're not alone. If you can make those little changes with them, start walking with them, you know, make sure that they have an accountability partner. I know for a lot of people that's a big thing, because if they think nobody's watching, they can be like, oh, well, I don't really need to do that today, you know.
Yeah.
So just encourage them, let them know that you will go with them. You know, you can start making the little diet changes as well, because we could all probably use a little improvement with diet. So just encourage that and make sure that, like he said, they know they're not alone. And, you know, to me, that's going to be the biggest thing to help them, you know, really get on track.
And so what is your big thoughts on all of us about, like, I know there's a lot of people that think that even a person that is a late-term diabetic that still has function in the body, that some form of resistance training, maybe dumbbells at home or something they can squeeze. What was your thoughts on that, even if they can't get out of their chairs and just say, okay, let's squeeze a dumbbell? What do you think that reacts with the body, especially someone having a heart attack or a heart replacement or obesity where they can't really move too much or they're going to be down? I mean, do you think resistance training has an option that they could be encouraged to give them dumbbells and maybe work out with them? I mean, that is an option, but for that level, that is something that's out of a lot of people's realm.
Right.
And they don't want to cause damage. So would you think that would be a safe thing? Not like putting them through an Arnold Schwarzenegger workout or anything, but or a Nathan workout. We don't want that bench press in 500. But, you know, maybe a Kyle workout. That would probably work.
There we go.
So Kyle's our pick-on guy today, so we have to at least make fun of him once, one of you guys, before we're done. He can take it, because we put him in front of the mirror. He's loving himself right now.
Absolutely.
So, so how would you suggest maybe, I mean, would you even suggest something like an easy resistance training or something that would get muscle activity or muscle neuron activity?
Yeah.
I mean, is that something that you would even encourage? I know we talked about getting out of the chair, but would it even be productive at this state to encourage that kind of a routine?
Yeah, Of course, people need to consult with their physician first
Exactly.
before they start
Always,
anything.
always.
Because your medications and health diagnosis and stuff can really mess with that. But yeah, I think anything that's going to get their blood flowing is going to help, because it's
Okay.
going to help improve the circulation of the heart, everything else. So if you can just do a little bit, it doesn't matter what it is, as long as your doctor's okay with it, I say go for it.
And so I think, I know we talked about diabetes.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna just go really into almost the I don't like to call it the scare tactic, but the facts.
Yeah.
So we're looking at that, we talked about that health and wellness continuum, the pre-death side. So what are the big signs and symptoms of that pre-death? We talked about loss of limb. We talked about extreme medication. What would put people in those categories? We talked about diabetes, but what do you think on a broader scale that people wouldn't normally think about? What would put that person in that kind of category of that pre-death situation? So what would be certain extra symptoms besides diabetes?
So it can be small symptoms, such as just feeling too tired to get up and do anything, to even get out of bed. Sometimes people, it wears them out. That can be a sign and symptom that you need to take to your doctor and kind of let them know, hey, this has been going on. I'm not really having the energy to even get out of bed, because that can be a big deal. If they get short of breath when they move, sometimes that can be a big sign as well. So you just need to watch for the little things that don't feel normal.
Okay.
If you have anything out of the normal that you're just like, man, that's kind of weird for me, you need to get it checked out, because it could lead to something bigger.
Yeah, and I bet like seeing a lot of those cases of people having the heart attacks during your other time of your work, those things could all be preventable.
Yeah,
And if
absolutely.
we just knew the telltale signs of it, and so that's really what I want our focus to be on is making people aware, and I think knowing that would be much better. So.
Absolutely.
All right, so you guys have been really quiet today. We need you talking a little bit more. So, I mean, anything you would like to add before we do our close up or anything like that?
I think we kind of hit most topics as far as what's concerned. I think, just like she said with the resistance training, even something small, squeezing a dumbbell, getting the nerves firing, keeping the body kind of alive and running, getting the blood flowing, as long as the doctors and physicians say it's okay. I think that's probably best case, even for somebody who may not be able to walk or move or anything.
Yeah.
Just squeezing the simple dumbbell could make even the smallest change. So.
Yeah. And what did you think, or that you learned, or that you can add into a piece that you feel that you've learned a little bit from the second?
I think one of the important things I learned was you need to be supportive. That's the most important key. Like she said, a partner, even if you don't need to do the stuff that the person you're trying to help, to do it with them, to support them, to help them get through it. I think that's one of the biggest keys, because knowing they're alone is the worst feeling in the world.
Yeah.
So.
And I think our whole goal is for everyone to be in wellness. And I think there is, at that point, people tend to think in that lower category of pre-death, or the worst category of the illness to wellness continuum. Wellness being the perfect picture of life. Then you have the neutral, symptom we'll be talking about, where it's what they call a fake wellness. It's where people come into the gym and they think they know what they're doing, and their diet is inconsistent and their workout's inconsistent, but if they don't continue changing, they'll go downward towards the illness. And so I think this is the hardest topic to talk about, because you can't go anywhere near fitness at this point. It's a position that they need to be aware that I can change. I'm not going to die. I'm not going to be done. I'm not going to be finished. And that we hopefully will be able to tell people, hey, it is our part to step up, to encourage them, and to get that family member to get, if not help, if they're already getting help, it's something to motivate them, to be a partner with them on it. And I think that's all part of our job. And then even that partner that moves them, and you can move with them into that wellness continuum, you can see their life change for the better. And so I think it takes a community. But again, it's awareness of knowing that if we have that tiredness, if we have those issues where we're diabetic, don't continue doing what you're doing. We got to make some changes, and with that support group of a family, you need to have that push, that kind of encouragement with it, or you're going to go downhill. You know what I mean? And eventually, you get them into weight training once the doctor approves and those kind of things, and you see reversing of a lot of issues with balancing of the sugar, or balancing of the heart issues and full function possibly of the chambers of the heart, Not really sure, but those are seen things to happen. And so, that's our goal. I mean, that's what we want to achieve. So hopefully in the next, and I appreciate you, Rebekah, you came into a very hard subject.
That's okay.
The subject is something that is not so exciting to talk about. In fact, so hey, we get to do bench press and we get to do, put someone in body pump for a couple hours or put them in personal training and they'll be done. It's not a symptom you can just throw them into. It has to be very, 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 very slow process to start. But I think getting people to be aware of, hey, I need to at least help my family member, or hey, I need to change. How do I change? And so I hope these tips and these ideas can help. And definitely we'll be continuing from this next step on to our next phase, which will be right before our neutral wellness. And that's going to be more of the symptoms of where they're not in that pre-death situation, but they're in a point where they can actually possibly start an easier walking routine and maybe a small routine of fitness. And those are a lot of people. That's going to hit a realm of a lot of people that are not in the gym right now. That they have a point to go into the symptoms we talked about and move into that area that is negative. That they can be in surgery and loss of limbs and loss of movement. And if they just go into the fitness, their whole life could change for the better. And so we're going to be moving from where they don't want to be here at all. I mean, there's not much to talk about beyond these are the bad telltale signs. And it's not good. We have to work. We have to do a lot of interceding. We have to do a lot of almost like therapy of, man, we got to get you out of this into the next realm to where we can actually start walking. We can actually start losing that weight. We can actually start getting a healthier life. And then maybe getting them on a treadmill at the gym. And maybe getting them with some type of personal training that causes a regulated exercise. And then we can move on better and you can start seeing some crazy things happen. So we're really excited. Most likely we'll have a doctor coming next week. So we'll have the education keep running through. It'll be great. And so real quick before we head out, and we'll go through this. So where are you in nurse at right now?
I just graduated, so I'll be starting at Hannibal Regional in the ICU next week.
Awesome. So
Congratulations.
wow, that's crazy. So what are you most excited about on that? I know it's ICU. It's something that. What are you most excited to learn about or see about or do that you didn't get a chance to do in your previous positions?
We just go a lot more in depth. The ambulance is more the emergency care, the here and now. Let's fix it. And then the ICU is more the critical care, the long term. Let's get this person from really bad to a little bit better so they can possibly go home. So I'm excited to get in there and see what I can learn about, the heart, the lungs. We do a lot with that.
Awesome.
So ventilators, I'm scared to death of those, but I'm excited of them.
And the more you work it, the better you get more comfortable with it.
Exactly.
It becomes like second nature.
Yes.
And so when you think about it, you said something that really hit the point of what we're talking about, getting them in their situation they're bad at.
Yep.
And then they're in the hospital now at that point and getting them better. And so our goal is to have them not have that happen.
Yep.
Maybe hit that before. But then maybe, for example, someone goes to the ICU from a health condition and they had to have surgery.
Yeah.
Now this is a new question, something for you guys to think about. I know we're going to be wrapping it up soon, but that person that gets out of that surgery and their life is about to get better, what do we suggest to them for our next step? Is it, all right, let's start going to the gym immediately? Or is it, let's take a couple small steps? You've gotten out of surgery, you're healed now. All right, let's not go back to where we were. Because, how many people do you think that go through that surgery and go through that thing to become better, and then they go back into the situation they are before?
Oh, there's a lot.
And I guess that's where we don't want to be, because they keep on living that same life. So how do we, or any point of view, how do we grab those people, viewers here especially, because I guarantee there's people that have family members that are that grandfather, or that father, or that mother that are so stubborn that they're like, I can do it myself. I don't have to change anything. I'm perfectly healthy. How do we, once they get to that position where they have that fear, that scare, that situation, how do we at that point, to speak into that person, tell them to, that person themselves that had that surgery, or that person that is that family member of it, how do we say, all right, wake up? What would be the first step possibly? Or what would be, I know we talk about nutrition and change, but we're continually seeing that cycle of people revert back to that phase again. And so maybe even a question of why do you think that is? And what do you think it is that they've had that scare and then go back to the routine? What do you guys think? What do you think is the big reason or why people revert back to it? I know the experience that you guys possibly had. What do you think?
I think some people, it scares them, but they don't necessarily have that push to want to change. And even something as simple as sitting down and just talking to somebody, not even working out, not doing anything, sitting down, admitting the problems you're having, talking to somebody, letting it kind of be out in the open, you know, saying it out loud. It just, acknowledging that you have that problem is going to be the first step to fixing it. So that's, I mean, I think that is a big thing, is just getting to the point where you fully understand that you have the problem, and then from there, knowing that you have to help solve that problem.
And I mean, physically, like nutrition-wise, I mean, do you think a lot of those people, it's hard for them to get that grasp of saying, where do I go from here? How do I even eat healthy? What would be maybe our suggestions of saying, maybe right now on the phone, little suggestions of change? I mean, of course, we talk to a doctor. The doctor says you need to eat healthier.
Yeah.
You need to eat this and this. What would be maybe some food suggestions before we close this up that we could possibly say, hey guys, maybe you do this and this and this, and we can see a little bit of health change a little bit. So what would be a good suggestion from you guys on this?
I definitely don't think that you have to do it all at once. I know it can be kind of scary for somebody who's just starting out to think, oh my gosh, I'm not going to be able to have any of the foods that I like ever again. You know, it doesn't have to be that way. Of course, you cut out as much as you can, but if you can just do a little bit slowly at a time, that's going to be the big thing to kind of help you. And then as far as like the exercise side of it, I know after surgery, a lot of people are really sore and they're afraid that, you know, they're going to be hurting so bad for the rest of the night. But you got to realize that that point, that's where you've got to start to be able to move on. So you kind of got to work through the pain a little bit. I know it's hard, but that's why they make pain medication, you know.
Yeah.
So just
and
small
having
steps.
that life change right then.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Yep.
not something that will, I think we always tend to put it off. I'll get better tomorrow. I'll
Right.
do it again tomorrow. I'll diet more tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so I think we tend to think, well, I'll be better tomorrow. The pain will be better tomorrow. I'll walk tomorrow. But then we get back in that bad routine.
Exactly.
And it kills us, you know, and it's a sad constant cycle.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, it's easier and it's their comfort level, but you got to be able to step out of that comfort level a little bit to be able to make improvements.
Yeah, and I think too, even we talked about the family member, you know, getting in that case, and they're going to be grumpy, they're going to be in your face. I mean, you ever dealt with the grandfather that had heart surgery, and they go, don't touch me, get away from me. And you got to sort of be that jerk back to him, you know what I mean? Saying, I don't care, I love you, and you're going to get out of this, and the doctor said you need to do this, and I don't care if I have to take care of you, you know?
Yeah, and I think sometimes even with people stubborn like that, being, not necessarily being mean to them, but giving them that aggressive push. I mean, like, look, we're doing this. You know, this is what's good for you. We're doing this. And at first they're going to be, I don't want to do it. I don't want to. This is dumb. I'm comfortable with this. They don't need to be comfortable.
Yeah.
You know, you want to get them out of their comfort zone, because no matter who you are, if you stay in your comfort zone, you're not going to make any progress.
That's your life, it should be your
That
life
is
for
life
change.
as a whole.
Yeah.
And so getting them out of there, and then once they see the adjustments, they're not going to like it at first, but once they see the changes that are coming, they get used to those adjustments being made. It just makes that process
Their nerves
so much
adapt
easier.
to that change.
Yeah.
And that's the big thing, is their nerves adapt to that change. And then we constantly, now, okay, it's the next level of moving. But I think as family members or friends, that's the tough part, is you see them in pain, you want to comfort them, and sometimes you see even families being the enablers.
Yeah.
Where they're going, oh, that's okay, eat that ice cream, feel better, you know? I mean, when I've gotten Rex, my mom has been phenomenal, but then when I should have been doing something, she's like, just sit down, relax, I want to see you okay, you know? And it's because she's awesome, you know, she's a very protective and sweet person. And so, but we tend to sometimes do that, and that wasn't my case, I wasn't like dying or anything, something very simple. But, you know, we look at these people, we are making sure to tell them now that, hey, it's our part to really push them. So any final notes, any final statements? I mean, is there anything that you want to feel like you need to say to people watching right now about what we talked about this position?
I mean, kind of just reiterating what I already said earlier on in the thing, is knowing that, you're not alone in the process at all, and there are people, whether it is family, friends, even trainers or whoever, that do care about you and do want to see you get better. And even just making those small changes, it doesn't have to be a drastic, hard process at all. So just allowing people to know that.
Yeah. You looked right into that camera, dude. That was really pretty. Man, you are a smooth criminal. You know
Talking
that?
to the crowd.
Yeah, you are really good. You're really good. So what do you think, Nathan? I mean, what would you sort of from what we talked about, maybe gather or want to suggest to somebody?
Kind of a little bit what Kyle said. You're not on your own.
Mm.
We're here to help you. You know, if it's your family, be supportive. Be there for them.
Mm.
Do it with them, even if you don't need to do it. You know, that's the key. You got to make sure they don't feel alone.
Yeah.
So.
And so what would you suggest? I mean, you, first of all, thank you. This has been fun.
Yeah, thank you.
This is good to be able to have those questions and really reiterate what we all definitely agree on.
Mhm.
So what would your parting sort of statement to the people watching that you would feel that'd be a really valuable piece of information for them?
Start small. That's how you're gonna reach the bigger goals. Set smaller goals so you can kind of see your progress as you go. That's something that maybe will help motivate some people. Just get that support person that you can count on, that you can talk to, and you know, maybe they can even do the new routines with you, you know, whether it be eating healthier, exercising more regularly, you know, set goals and just have that person. I think that's gonna be the best thing that's gonna help people.
Yeah, and I think the big thing here is that, you know, our job as health professionals of some sort, in our different levels, is to help get people out of their rut and their situation and their hopelessness, and move them into a position of really who they are, and to really enjoy life,
Yeah.
and to not be stuck in that situation of, I guess I'm just gonna die, this is gonna be the way the rest of my life. And we wanna make sure that doesn't happen. And hopefully the people can pick up and say, you know what, it's time for me to step up.
Mm-hmm.
It's time for me to be either, I gotta motivate myself, or I gotta motivate my family member, and I gotta really help pick them up and say, this is not the last straw, we need to move. So, you know, you do that with a lot of illnesses. Sometimes people just can't see beyond that illness, and it's a tough situation. And so it takes heroes, it takes people that love you, even a hero for yourself. Just like we talked about our friend, and he's a hero for himself for saying, enough is enough, I gotta change my life.
Absolutely.
And he did it, and that's a success story from it. And I'd love to get him on the show.
Oh, we will,
I mean,
we
we're
will.
gonna get him on the show, and just to see the change and the difference in his life. I can't wait for that. I think that's gonna be a 2-hour-long segment, so. So basically, everybody, please stay tuned. Again, awesome job for Rebekah, and thank you guys for being part of this. You know, next week, we're gonna be talking about the next phase of our illness wellness continuum, and that's basically the part where people, you need to go to a gym, you need to go move, you need to walk. You're not in that part where you're in these situations where people are now, where they're losing their limbs and their health and all that. Maybe it's post-surgery, we talked about post-surgery, or really need a gym and the doctor says you need to become healthy. And so it's some medications, heart medications, blood pressure, whatever, even depression medications, and it takes that step to come to the gym to try to become and up the scale of wellness. So please stay tuned. Next week we're going to have another guest come on, and we'll hopefully throw some more knowledge bombs down for you guys. And definitely we will miss the beard power here between Nathan and Kyle. But we will have Jeff most likely back next week. Our fitness coordinator, I made him in. I called him wellness coordinator, but he's our fitness. He's our small group stud. So, but again, we had Kyle and his beautiful beard here giving us some information, and we're just excited to have you guys join the next part of our journey, and to really just to help you guys out with more information. Please post below on any comments of what you guys would like to talk about, or would like us to talk about, and what you're really curious about, or maybe some guests that you'd like to see on here, and to really just tell us what you think about it so far. We'd be glad to hear from you. Stay tuned soon.